Today I'm going to play between Cloth3D and Blender in order to create a jacket with the fur elements. First, let's choose a reference. Naturally, I decided to look for something interesting on Pinterest. The main idea is that one piece of clothing should contain at least two materials to showcase working with a single garment in Blender. Let's return to Blender. Now we need to handle the boring settings for the character model we will be dressing. I grabbed this model straight from Mixamo because, for now we don't need to work with custom models. I'm trying to save as much time as possible. Why do we need this boring timeline and posing settings? We need to get two versions of the model, one in a T-pose and another ready for morphing. On the timeline, we divide the keyframes and save each pose separately. The starting T-pose, which is most convenient for dressing, and the morph pose, which we will render. Now it's time to switch to CLO. I decided not to cut this part from the video, leaving it in case there is something useful in the process of quickly sketching clothing. However, I split the section up because there is nothing fundamentally interesting here. We just need to roughly sketch out the clothing details, similar to the reference I found on Pinterest. At this stage, we don't delve into materials physics, it's irrelevant right now. What's really important is to approximately recreate the look, which we will refine in Blender later. Here is what I did. I uploaded the mannequin in a T-pose and roughly sketched a jacket and pants on it. I didn't want to leave it without the lower part of the outfit. For the jacket, we have a base and a collar. We won't overthink the collar, it's just a rectangle. Yeah, I know that some fashion designers might cringe as it's such a simplistic collar pattern. Then I added sleeves, making them slightly longer to cover part of the arms. Oh yeah, that's right, we also need a zipper on the jacket, so let me quickly edit. So great! It's starting to resemble the reference. Next, save the file as a regular OBJ with minimal settings. Disable any adventurous checkboxes. We only need the clothing. Leave it thin. We can always add thickness later in Blender using a modifier which is called solidify. So let's get back in Blender again. During input, select split by group and split by object in the settings. Also adjust the scale to 0.01 so it matches the size of our mannequin and the workspace. Now for another tedious task, breaking the clothing into parts, organizing them into collections and naming those collections. Yes, I know that it takes time, but file and workspace organization is crucial in any job. Before moving to the fur, let's assign some materials to our template model. I chose a ready-made material resembling black leather. It seems suitable, quite suitable. I also want the side stripes on the pants to have more texture, perhaps with, displacement to differentiate them from the main leather material. Now for the most interesting part, finally, and the essence of this video, creating hair particles for the jacket's fur. Start by selecting the jacket's largest piece. It's gonna be our base. I'll create all the settings for it first, then copy them to the other jacket parts. First, adjust the hair, length, count, and shape. You can then tweak the overall diameter in the settings below. Also add children to the hair groups on the jacket for visual volume. Always experiment with the settings, as it all depends on your model's scale, size, desired visual result, and etc. Once the settings are ready, copy them to the other fur-covered parts of the jacket. As for the color, it requires different settings since it's smaller than the base. Create new particle settings for the color based on the previous ones, reducing the hair count and children. So let's check the render. Yeah, the hair diameter seems off. It needs to be slightly thicker for better visibility. Adjust the hair physics, roughness, kink, and clumping. Clumping visually binds hair ends, giving a worn look, which is what we need. Next, set up the fur material. I decided not to use ready-made materials, and instead of it, I just created a simple principled BSDF material. Add a color ramp to create a gradient along the hair's length, adding visual depth for a more realistic fur look. Inform Blender that the gradient should follow the hair length by adding the curve info node and connecting the color ramp to it via the intercept. Perfect. We will tweak the color, depth, and settings later. Finally, refine the details for realism. Render the model repeatedly to see the final details since the viewport render differs from the final result. So, I like how it's coming along. Now let's groom the jacket fur, because it just can't grow so neatly in such perfect directions. At this stage, we can make the curves finally curvy. Groom and brush the fur in different directions, ensuring no bold spots appear in the final render. There are some on my model, and I'll try to fix them as much as possible. Also, don't forget to increase the curves render steps in the render tab. By the default, we have 2 steps. Set it at least 6. Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, it's fine. Check the B-spline box for smoother renders. Almost done. Continue refining. Add another particle layer for small chaotic hairs to make the fur less tidy and more realistic. I'll even tweak their material, making it slightly lighter than the main fur. That's about it. The result isn't an exact copy, of course, of the reference, but I tried to quickly recreate the initial look. So the key was to understand the workflow with 3D models. You can always refine and adjust it for specific projects and tasks. I sincerely hope this somewhat chaotic tutorial proves useful to someone. So that's all from me. Big hugs and best of luck to everyone.